So continuing with me talking about movies from 1987, I wanted to talk about three movies that came out in the year 1987. They were both made by the infamous group Canon Films, which was famously known for making big schlock films in the 80s, and it got a documentary called Electric Boogaloo, and I would highly recommend you'd watch it. It's a terrific documentary. It might be my favorite documentary. But anyway, 1987, they attempted to make three big movies, and they'd all bomb. Those movies being Over the Top, Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, Masters of the Universe. So today, I'm going to talk about those three movies, and let's get right into it, with the first one being Over the Top. Though yes, this movie came out in February, but I just kind of have to review it anyway. And the other two were released in the summer, so I'm just going to talk about this one still. So basically, Stallone was paid $12 million to be in a movie where he's this trucker who's trying to reunite with his son that he never got to know at all. And as a trucker, he's big into arm wrestling. That's right, this is an arm wrestling movie. It's very obvious that, because I also should mention that a year before he made a movie called Cobra, where he played a cop. So you can get the feeling like he was trying to maybe start some sort of franchise out of these movies. Like make a sort of like his next Rocky or Rambo. And I would recommend both Cobra and Over the Top just because of how bad they are. And especially Cobra, because that's where he legitimately, it's basically Stallone versus Cabal from Dr. Mordred. So, that's got to be a good movie. But this is just definitely a very corny movie. And this was directed by Menahem Golan, who was like the chairman of Canon Pictures, so they definitely went all out on this production. I mean, Stallone was paid $12 million for this movie. And it definitely has a good plot in there somewhere, but the issue is that it keeps cutting back to this whole thing with arm wrestling, when obviously, because the writer in the documentary said that this whole movie was meant to be more than the arm wrestling. It was more about to be Stallone and his son, and for the first half it kind of is them driving around, and the son is set up to be more of this kind of like a spoiled brat. But that's weird is that he's in like a military school, and it just doesn't fit why he acts the way he does. It's just something I feel like he should have been more of a private school, because if he's meant to be military school, we don't really feel like he has any like big military training in him. It's just a plot point that I didn't think needed to be made. And then there's a whole thing where basically his grandpa, who's played by the general from Independence Day, is after them, and just doesn't like Stallone overall. And he's not like what you think, like he's an evil antagonist. He's an antagonist, but he's not evil. Like he doesn't want any fortune. He just loves his grandson. So don't think it's not that corny in that sense. But overall, basically, it's a traditional like father and son road trip movie, and them trying to get together, but with the whole thing of arm wrestling. And when it gets to the arm wrestling, it just gets entirely insane. And you can just kind of feel like, in a way, this was trying to be like the next Rocky. And it doesn't really just work at the end, because it feels too conflicted on what it's trying to be. But I overall think Over the Top is a corny movie, but a good movie deep down. But if you like that kind of stuff, I highly, highly recommend you check it out. So Superman 4 was an attempt at making big blockbuster superheroes, and it definitely was not their last attempt. They tried to do Spider-Man, that didn't work. and then Menahem split from canon to join to, and went on to 20th Century Films, and made Captain America over there. But Superman 4 definitely is cheap, but that's because they slashed the budget to $17 million and used most of that money into Masters of the Universe. Was it worth it? We'll talk about Masters of the Universe next. But Superman 4, the budget really shows of how cheap it is. This was a movie that they had to convince Christopher Reeve to come back by giving him the entire story control after the last two films they didn't really like that much, just because how this all kinds fired Richard Donner and brought in Richard Lester, who made things worse with Superman 3, and reshot a bunch of stuff for Superman 2. And he was able to get Margot Kidder and Gene Hackman back, who were hardly in Superman 3 at all. And it definitely feels like there's some sort of return to form, but the problem is overall, you feel like you're watching a very cheap comic book movie, and that has a lot of cut out, because when you watch some of these movies on the DVD that I have, most of these movies are like an hour and 30 minutes or an hour 40 minutes. So the movies were definitely short, just because Canon wanted these movies to be short so they can make more money, to have more viewings. It was a trick that they tried to do, but it did not work at all. And so there's a whole thing a lot of people know, is that there's a whole techno scene where Christopher Reeve is dancing with his new love interest, who is a Hemingway, and then also there's a whole scene where there's going to be like another nuclear man who kind of looks like Bizarro with a bit of like a Frankenstein look to him. That was entirely cut from the movie, and it doesn't really feel missing, because like the second nuclear man, who's the one that makes it into the final film, feels like he was always meant to be the big bad guy of the movie. And it feels like, again, it feels like it could have been a good movie. The idea of Superman like fighting like another opponent that feels like of his match, but like he's from nuclear energy. Even though, yeah, this movie is very stupid in a very funny way, I can't just help crack up just seeing Lex Luthor and his like nephew cut off Superman's hair like this.
So we can all have the fun of seeing how strong he really is. Here you can see a 1,000-pound load easily suspended by his single hair.
I wouldn't say it's the worst Superman movie. I think I would watch this over Superman Returns and BVS, but it's definitely a must-watch, so bad it's good movie. I love it, of just how stupid all this just shit is. It's like this is just back when superhero movies were kind of seen as a risk, and all you had was Christopher Reeve. So it's a film that I do like rewatching sometimes, just for a good laugh. And it's worth every minute of it. But Superman 4, could have been good, but instead they used the money on Masters of the Universe. Was that movie good?
Power to be almighty, the power to be masters of the universe.
So, was Masters of the Universe a movie worth canon taking half of Superman 4's budget away? Yeah, I mean, Superman 4 doesn't make any sense. I mean, it doesn't even, like, Chris Reeve is trying to say something about nuclear weapons, and it doesn't even come out clear if it's good or bad. So, yeah. Masters of the Universe, yeah, we'll admit, dialogue isn't great. He-Man doesn't really feel like the main character, but I guess that's why it's called Masters of the Universe. And it really feels Courtney Cox feels like the main character of the movie, and doesn't take place in Eternia. Mostly takes place in deserts where they just reuse the same shots as before, and just I know they use the Grayskull set, so. It's definitely not very imaginative with what they do with Eternia. But even when it's on Earth, it's still kind of a fun movie. And you think, like, this could fail easily with it being on Earth. But I will admit, though, yes, it is odd that there's not many people on the streets. But it's still fun, because it doesn't get annoying, and there's still a great sense of adventure in the action scenes. But the cheapness can show sometimes, especially at the end, where everything just turns black suddenly. Because the movie had a very, very just troubled production, and the director did not do the best things in life. But Frank Langella's Skeletor is excellent, and the fact that he did it for his son is terrific. I think I like when an actor does that. Dolph Lundgren, though he looked the part at the time, he definitely wasn't up for it. And he still today isn't really proud of it. He felt like he was doing a toy because he was basically playing a toy. But I think he has the look overall. And the effects are actually pretty good for canon films, and compared to Superman 4, it's pretty good besides the whole glider part. And James Tolkien is kind of fun as the character Lubick. It's kind of it's kind of silly though that he's in it, and he just ends up in Eternia. It's funny though, and it's overall it's a very just a fun, action-packed 80s Star Wars movie, because that's how it was advertised as. I would definitely watch Masters of the Universe if you're not a fan of the show, because I don't think fans of the show like it. And this would have been this would have got a sequel anyway, and where it was He-Man coming back, where Skeletor takes over Earth because Skeletor says he'll be back, and it was going to be like He-Man in Apocalyptic Wasteland. Now that sounds awesome, and don't know why that movie exists. But I do know Albert Pune, I think he's working on some sort of screenplay that is the plot of Masters of the Universe 2, but now it's Angels and Demons. So anyway, help fund Albert Pune's film. But anyway, those are the canon films of 1987. I think Masters of the Universe is my favorite one. Over the Top it's fun and cheesy, but the thing is that there's the characters and some of the writing is just corny, and Superman 4 was just ruined by the studio. But Masters of the Universe I do like. It's a fun space adventure movie, even though it takes place on Earth. It has two teenagers, but it's an overall fun movie that it's not made it's mostly if you like this type of stuff like me, because I don't know that much about He-Man. So there you go. Thank you guys for watching, and though I'm going to talk about one more movie from 1987. Very famously bad movie from 1987. You might know what it is.